Welcome, everybody. My name is Vicky. I'm going to be your trainer for this recording. We are on week 3 of 4 weeks on this unit, CHCCSL001. Establish and confirm the counselling relationship. So establishing it is that building rapport and engagement, and confirming the counselling relationship is where the client agrees to continue working with you, and then finding out whether it's going to be a suitable session, whether you're going to be the counsellor that engages with them, they feel comfortable. What we're going to assess you on will be your micro skills, and to do that in preparation around your skills will be for you to have the client form. And you can see here just the picture that there is a counsellor sitting there. There's 2 people, and there's listening, there's eye contact, there's body language, and there's some note taking. They're the kind of things that we would duplicate or simulate in our workplace environment. So before we get started, what I'd like to do is our acknowledgement to country, if I may. In the spirit of reconciliation, Hayter Institute of Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of this nation and the traditional custodians of the land on which we work, live and study. We express our gratitude for the sharing of this land, our sorrow for the personal, spiritual and cultural costs of that sharing, and hope that we may move forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. We pay our respect to all First Nation people and acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. And I extend this acknowledgement to everyone that's watching the recording. If you cannot make it to our live classes and you're enrolled in your Diploma of Community Services, then I want to extend this acknowledgement out to you as well. So what we've done in this class is we've broken up into 2 groups of 2 and doing some peer support, just so those facial expressions, the non-verbals, the intentional interviewing, the micro skills. We've covered that and we've done that in our sessions. In tonight's session, you're going to have people who are going to demonstrate their role play. So you have your written questions and you have your skills. And your skills will be based on your ability to sit with somebody and listen to their story and ask them some open-ended questions and establish that relationship, that connection with people. Depends entirely on how that person plays the role. It could be anywhere from engaged or they're very heightened, or it might be that they're presenting in a fairly low or a flat mood. We still need to be able to assess your micro skills as a counsellor, non-clinical counsellor, but you are the counsellor. There's quite a difference when we're doing counselling work as to doing support work. Support work might be sharing information, giving people some referrals over. This one you may refer, but it might be referring to a program that you're aware of, but you don't refer them to another counsellor. Just keep that in mind when you're doing your role play. You're actually keeping that client and you're going to be working with that client. And each of those clients has a different story going on that requires you to be establishing and confirming that you're going to be their counsellor, and how you start that relationship off and how you get them to maybe share a little bit about their story and why they're there with you. Okay, so what I promised everyone tonight is that I'm going to offer a little bit of a toolbox talk. So you already have your slides and you have your learner's guide. What I want to be able to do now is just break down what those micro skills are and what I'm looking for when I'm doing assessment work, because you will be doing 3 client scenarios. Okay. Just open our page up for us a little bit there so we can see it more on screen. So this is a toolbox. It won't be in your toolbox. This is in the trainers. But I thought it might be helpful if I take everything that's in your learner's guide and just give it to you in a toolbox talk. I call them cue cards. And this is how we approach our live classes and some of our learning and our discussions. So when I'm in this space, and you'll hear me do that in our second recording, it would be things like, how do I prepare for a counselling session? What knowledge might I need after I've read this story about Margaret or Tom or Rachel, the three scenarios that we give you for this unit? So my prompt for you there is to have a structured approach. I know the information, I've read a little bit about the scenario, and I've got some strategies on how I'd like to approach it. I will float those ideas out there as options, and of course the client will make those decisions, but I won't know what's going to happen until the client starts talking. So you'll review the client intake notes. Now that's already been done. Someone has done the intake for you. Now they're in with you for a counselling session. You'll identify with the client what the session goals are and the structure. Let me tell you a little bit about my role. This is how it works. You've got 6 sessions under our plan, but if you need to extend that, we can apply for more time together. But I'll be guided by you in that space, and that's what we want to be able to establish, that relationship, confirm we're going to work together. But to do that, what are they saying yes to? So we need to give them an idea. This is what it is, and what are their goals? And my goal for you would be to help you build that confidence that you say you're not feeling at the moment. My goal for you would be to help you navigate that space of complicated grief and loss, about the loss of your father. So I think if you come back to these little cue cards that I've given in feedback in anyone that's doing their role plays, but just listen for some of that now in the following recording and come at it through this lens. What am I looking for? So that when you watch others do that and you listen to the peer review and the assessor feedback, think of it differently through this lens. This is the assessor lens, okay? So select what communication strategies, so open-ended questions, some you might have to have closed, some prompting questions to get them to talk. Have a think about what that's like. Go through your learner's guide. To be doing this, you will have done task 1, task 2 as well. So you'll have got some underpinning knowledge. This one, you definitely can't just cherry pick a role play and do that. And if we do them live in classes, then you need role play experience, or you may be asked to do a part 2, and that's fine. You're halfway there. So we give you that opportunity in classes. In class, though, we only do the one that I can assess. But when you're doing these on your own with no assessor, then at all, and you haven't done anything in class, then you will do each of those role plays separately, and your notes will reflect the work that you did. So prepare your environment for safety and engagement. I'm actually going to demonstrate that for you. I thought it might be helpful if I set the scene. So at the bottom left-hand corner of your Zoom screen, you have an icon that's your microphone. That's when turn your sound on, and you might hear us say that in our recordings from time to time, myself included. So right beside that's an icon for a camera, and it gives us options. You may have that in your portal, but this is the setting that I use most of the time. Now, if you don't like this one, if it's not in your background, then you can get a picture that you like of Pinterest or Google, save that image, put it into your pictures, and then open this up and transfer that over. And you can add it in there. It gives you a spot there where you can click to add. This one I like because it's fairly similar to my own clinic, and the neutral tones are fairly calming for me as much as it is my client. But I also like to say, look, I've got 2 chairs behind me. I've got a door that leads in. There's brochures as the clients walk in. There is another room where the amenities are. There's men's and women's toilets. And you can see outside I've got some natural light, and it just looks over to a beautiful Zen garden with a waterfall. And it sets that mood. There's a scented candle, but it's not too strong. So it's like I want to be able to walk into a space and feel okay. There's 2 chairs, and I'll show you that. I might move out of the way. Oh, sorry. And you can see that there's an ottoman. So I might have a tray with ambient water, and that's not been open. And then, of course, the client can help themselves. You can see that there's a stereo, and it is not dissimilar to my own space. But also I have a clipboard and a notepad if I'm going to be working with someone. And I will say to my client, like, I'm just going to take a few notes. Hope that's okay. But this is just to be able to put in place some of the things. There might be things that you would like me to do, and there might be some things that I need you to sign off on to give me consent. But let's just talk about where we are today, how I may be able to assist you, and perhaps you've got your own ideas of what it is that you would like to get out of our time together. And then wait. Wait for them to connect, wait for them to engage, wait for you to establish that you've got a counselling relationship. And then once you start to relax and they relax, then you confirm that you will continue to work together. I need to hear that in your role play. Would you like to come back again? So let me just share that document again. This is just my little toolbox. Like I said, you won't have that in your resources, but I'm giving you the benefit of this. It's going in your recording. I think I've made these big enough, but let me just expand that screen for you a little. I make it a little easier. No, it doesn't want to. Anyway, I'm pretty confident that I've made these ones, the cue cards, big enough. So I work with these behind the scenes if I'm doing live role plays, just to help you with that. And this is based on what I'm assessing you on. So we've gone through how should you prepare for counselling session, reading it ahead of time, getting a feeling for it and some knowledge, identify what the goals are for yourself, and then also for the client, because there's already happened to have been an intake, and select what communication strategies you feel comfortable with, your style as a worker, and then prepare your environment for safety and engagement. And I've just let you know about the setting that I've got here while I'm doing this recording for us. Okay, so establishing the relationship, that's what we need to assess you on. How do I build rapport with a new client? Provide clear information about the counselling process. Well, let me tell you how this works. Make sure that their expectations and your boundaries align. Starting off is how you intend to finish. Explore client fears or anxieties. What's happening for you at the moment? And then respect the client pace and their preferences. So not all clients contribute and say a lot, and some overshare and do say a lot. But we just meet our client, respect their pace, but we stay calm and regulated in ours. 3, confirming the relationship once we've established it. Our prompt here is, how do I confirm the working agreement? We co-create goals in a counselling plan. So we're already working together. What are some of the things? Was there anything else? Well, yeah, I'd really like to maybe mix with a few other people. That might be one of the goals. Or, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the loss of my parent. It was a complex relationship. Yeah. Okay, let me write that down. So we'll do more work on that. So we confirm that. And we're going to prioritize which ones first based on their needs, and we'll do that together. Ensure that there is confidentiality is understood and that you have consent to move forward, and then document your session agreements. If you're going to be referring them to a program internally or externally, if there's something that comes up in the goals that you would like to talk about. Otherwise, you're going for this particular unit, the CHCCSL001. There is a client plan and you'll be filling that in. Make sure that you don't have just yes, no answers, that you're describing what happened in your session. And if you're submitting in your role plays independently, then your role play, your visual and your skills must align with your documentation. So if the document is filled in and it's amazing, but we don't get that, two completely parallel things, but there's no connection to them, know that your role play won't be sufficient. So focus on your skills, because the client plan is a record of events. So let's just say that you're away and someone else is going to pick up that client plan and be able to assist that client. It should not be where everything is around you and only you. We make sure that we don't have codependent relationships or maladaptive coping mechanisms for people where there's an attachment there that may not be healthy. So we have healthy professional boundaries, which means that we also have our documentation to make sure that we're in a relationship, it's a professional one, and I've got my keynotes so that if I was away and the client still needed help that day and they didn't want to make another appointment, the other person should be able to, again, go through those intake notes, have a look at where you were up to the last time you were together with the client, and then be able to step off from there. Look, I'm filling in for you today. Would that be okay? I was just wondering, I can see Harry's notes of where you were, but I was just wondering today, what's the most important thing for you? And again, priority of needs for the client. So it's how we ask those questions. We can all look after the client. So what's our communication technique? So what communication skills support the process of active listening, open-ended questions? They're all your who, what, how, when, where, and why. Why do you think that was? What was happening for you at that time? When was the time where you felt that things were stronger and you had more confidence? That's how we ask that. How should we approach this, I wonder? So it's in our language, being safe and trauma-informed practices. Reflect on what they said. That sounds really hard. And then, so it sounds like you didn't have a good relationship for most of your young life, Tom, and now your father has passed. The grief is, there's a bit of anger there, unfinished business, and no chance to be able to put that somewhere. I'm wondering if that would be some of the work that we would do together. Would you think that that would be helpful? No, I don't want to talk about my father. Okay, great. So it's like, yep, then that isn't what we will do with our work. But Tom may be reluctant to be coming into that space. His mother actually suggests that he comes in, but that should be, he's there. He's in through the door, regardless of whether a court ordered that counselling session with you or a family member who had concerns for them, because that anger is sort of pinging off everybody. So getting some help is about can't do any work with the client until you have established the relationship and then confirm that you've made an agreement that you'll work together. And the client at all times has the right to say, I'm not going to do this. Our responsibility sits with making sure that we present the scene, we have our skills in place, and that we attend fully present and use these skills. Then we will summarize and reframe, and that lets the client know that we listened to understand and that we've got a bit of an idea, because about 60% of the time with them, they do the talking, and 40% we use those open-ended questions to get them to do the talking. We do a bit of paraphrasing and some summarizing, but otherwise the client is the one that does most of the work. And even if it is silence, they are still finding whether they can sit in that room with you and feel safe and that the energy is okay. So ethical considerations. So what ethical principles guide my practice? That's your style, your practitioner style. You'll maintain professional boundaries, healthy professional boundaries, healthy for you as well as the worker. You'll protect your client's confidentiality. You'll know when to refer and follow legal and organisational policies of any organisation that you're working for. So there are key points. That's what I'm looking for when you're jumping in and you're doing this role play. So let me stop sharing that. So like I said, that's our toolbox talk. That isn't something that you're going to get in your resources. But I did want to be able to, hoping that accelerators up. It's telling me that my space has expired. Let me just reactivate that for us. Wonderful. I just wanted to give you the assessor's notes around this. I'm sorry, it's not letting me make my screen much larger. I'll just try this one thing. See if that gives it. Yeah, I think a little less. That might be better. Perfect. All right. Best I can do. All right. So I just wanted to walk you through the assessor role play. Okay, the 3 clients, and I'm hoping that this will be helpful. This is in your information. I've just added a few tips to help you get through that, and when you watch the second recording, you'll have a better idea of what the assessor's looking for. So this one is for when an assessor leads the role play. So you are required to conduct an initial session. So it's the first session, but it's not an intake, for 3 different clients presenting different issues to establish, confirm, and document the nature of the helping relationship you're establishing using appropriate, suitable communication techniques. So the open-ended questions, the motivational interviewing, the compassionate inquiry, the non-judgmental approach, they're the practitioner skills we assess you on here. So to prepare, you will need to have completed task 2 and been assessed as passed to attempt this role play effectively. Being task 4, you will be using 3 case studies from assessment task 2 to complete the role plays. You will need to upload these after the role plays. You've got a client report for each of them. So, and your clients are Margaret, Rachel, and Tom. So what do I look for? Active listening, which means you'll foster mutual understanding and build rapport. That's why you do active listening. So these are the techniques that I need to see. And then the purpose around that. And then when you reach that in your role play, then I sign off on those and I have my notes. You'll demonstrate empathy and patience because you want to create a safe, supportive, and supervised environment. You'll encourage open communication to uncover underlying concerns that are there and establish a foundation of trust. Paraphrasing to clarify and confirm that you have an understanding between yourself and the client. I hear you. Reflecting feelings is identifying and expressing the client's emotional state. That sounds hard. And you'll be doing those things for us to assess you. Open and close questioning or probing, like prompting, encourage detailed responses and deeper client self-expression. You'll summarise, review what the key points that you covered for clarity and understanding. Reframing means that you'll provide an alternative perspective to shift the client's view. I wonder if it could look like that. Oh, never thought of that. That'd be a way you could approach that. I wonder, or perhaps it's not uncommon. And in our second recording that's going out, some of the learners who are being assessed in real time selecting a client, they will use these and apply these, and they must to be assessed as competent. So 3 client scenarios. You're the counsellor working in a community drug and alcohol rehabilitation agency, which means you have knowledge about a drug and alcohol rehab centre facility. Your supervisor asks you to meet with a new client called Margaret. Margaret has been through the rehab program in your agency, which involved 3 weeks of total care, so 24/7 residential clinical support, and she's now ready to go home. You have been given her case notes from the last 3 weeks in the facility as preparation for the counselling session. So you're doing an overview and you will have some knowledge. But now it's, what is it like for Margaret now she's leaving the rehabilitation centre? And if there's some gaps in her knowledge, skills and confidence, that will be the work that you're doing. You'll establish the counselling relationship and you'll confirm that you will continue to work together. So that's Margaret. And then there's Tom. Tom's father had recently passed. He's 25 and he's been estranged from his father for over 5 years. So at a young age, Tom had a detachment to his father. Now his father is gone. There may be some unfinished conversations. There's lots of different approaches. We're interested in how you're going to approach that. So that's Tom's story. What am I looking for? That you're doing counselling plans, safety or reporting issues. I'll need that. And your third client that you're going to do your role play with will be Rachel, who's a 14-year-old girl who's recently been caught shoplifting. The shopkeeper who recognised her uniform and caught her stealing clothes reported her to the school. The police were also informed and gave Rachel a caution at the police station, and her father and stepmother were appalled. Having caught her previously with other people's property in a school bag earlier in the year, she was beaten by her father when he found out, and her face is badly bruised when she presents. So in your session, what are the safety and the reporting issues that come up for you? And these will all be reflected in your conversation. Rachel, like everything you say to me is private and confidential, but I'm concerned about your safety. It's never okay to use violence. It's never okay to be abusive. And you've been harmed. Are you okay? Have you seen anybody about these injuries? Would you like to go home? Do you feel safe there? So they're our closed questions. That is consent to go home. But if she doesn't know what options are there, it's like, that's a hard question, I understand. Let me have a look at some options for us and I'll go over those if you like. So then it's Rachel making a decision. A 14-year-old is old enough to make that decision. There's an underlying issue as to why she was stealing those clothes. And that's the work that you will do. But right now, priority of needs, it's Rachel. Is Rachel safe? And that's your work. So it's your identified priorities, observations of client requirements. This is what I'm going to do. Involvement, if you're doing other agencies. So it might be that there's an out-of-home care. The police were involved in giving her a caution, but the police now also need to be informed of what happened to her in her home as well. So what triggered the family response? Is abuse the way that they solved their problems at home, or discipline? Rachel, none of that is okay. And then what communication techniques are you using when Rachel is sharing her story? And we'll observe you do that. So it's about effective use of body language. And then I sign off. Have you hit all the required elements? Did you apply different communication techniques? Did you have that helping relationship? You're coming out of service as a counsellor. Did you identify if there were things that might be outside your role? Look, that's not the area that I work in, but I work closely with other agencies and community partners, and I would be happy to make sure that we've got those soft pathways and you get to make choices. And if you were happy with that, then I would do that warm handover with them. Let her know what the process is, so that it's informed consent. And Rachel isn't just taking your word for it, where she's vulnerable and it's an imbalance of power. I know and you don't. I'm strong and you're weak. I'm good and you're bad. What are the messages that are being sent to that 14-year-old? I'll be another adult in that space. There would be a good reason for Rachel to not yet trust somebody. That has to be earned by us as much as we possibly can, so that they know this is going to be a safe place for them to come and talk about the things that are concerning them, that they're stuck with and unable to do that on their own. So you'll be asked to upload 3 completed client reports, and you will also have 3 completed role plays, unless of course you're doing the role plays in classes live, where I get you to play the client and the worker and be open to peer review and do a self-reflection. And you will play the others so that I get to watch you in that space of the 3. But live classes are different because you've got an assessor there in real time, and you can do these ones with somebody else to play the client. So booking in at classes for role plays attached to a unit means that you've booked ahead, that you're engaged in classes, that you're scheduled, and you can book in outside of classes to have that support with an assessor, but you need to establish that relationship as well and confirm that that's going to go ahead. This is part of your sector standard, your duty of care, your best practice, and the guidelines that we work to in a professional setting. So we are colleagues when we come into classes, and it's always a respectful space. So this is the end of part 1. It's also going to lead into a recording where some of the learners are going to go ahead. I don't know who they're going to be doing their role plays with, who their clients are. So please watch the second one. And I hope that these toolbox talks have been able to help you with that. So I've been through what it is I assess you on, the evidence that I give you, but that's for the real ones. So some learners tonight are doing that. And then, of course, some learners next week are doing exactly the same, but we are fully booked. We have 12 back-to-back role plays already booked in. And that will be our final week before we move into CHCNGT005, a brand new unit. So please stay tuned. Make sure that you sit back, and you'll get these as resources sent out to you. So hopefully we can get them sent out to you tomorrow so that you've got something to prepare for. And even the learners that have got maybe another part of a role play to do when they jump in next week. Otherwise, please enjoy part 2. They are your peers who are also studying Diploma of Community Services.